Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06 on a super busy Thursday morning. The trial now in Manhattan has been completed, at least the arguments, and the jury is now deliberating. We shall see if we get a verdict today, and we're preparing for it with as much information we can give you so you are informed and ready to deal with whatever news comes out of Manhattan in an educated and wise way. It's 7:35. Nick Minock of Channel 7 will join us about further problems with Loudoun County schools. 8:05, the chairman of the RNC, Michael Whatley, to talk about the political fallout of all of the lawfare against the Republican nominee. And then at 8:35, Miranda Devine, speaking of court cases, Hunter Biden has a day in court. Miranda Devine at the New York Post has been reporting about it from the beginning. I'm Larry O'Connor, and she, that lady right there, that's Mercedes Schlapp. Hello, Mercy.
Good morning, Larry. A lot of news today.
Yes, I'll say. And joining us to help us sort through it is a mutual friend and a great warrior for the cause. He's the president of Judicial Watch. He's Tom Fitton. Well, Tom, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Larry. Hi, Mercedes. Good to be with you both.
I get so depressed when I look at what's transpiring in Manhattan right now because this really isn't it's not the America I thought we had here, Tom, to be honest with you. The fact that the judicial system can be used in such a blatant and obvious way. And also, frankly, after our conversation with Brent Bozell, I get even more depressed knowing that if you rely on the mainstream media, you're not even getting the basic facts of this case right now.
Yeah, it's not a judicial proceeding. It's a political proceeding. They've hijacked the all of the kind of appearances of court trials and things that people are used to in terms of what happens in a criminal proceeding. But it has this kind of vague appearance of that, but it's not really that. And so that's why you hear lawyers on TV of both the left and the right utterly confused about what's going on. If people don't know what's going on and can't explain something, it's usually because there's politics involved.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to be talking about the Hunter case, later in the show. Yeah. You know, that's a straightforward criminal trial. You know, there's a form he was supposed to fill out honestly. He didn't. You know, it's like, were you a drug addict or not when you filled out the form saying you weren't? I mean, that's a pretty easy case to understand. That's the way criminal trials are supposed to go. This is like the equivalent of a political convention, but more corrupt.
And so my question, Tom, is how can the judge just get away with this? I mean, even with the jury instructions, there seems to be a lot of confusion. It definitely, there's a sense that the judge is trying to push this verdict in a particular way. I mean, is this something that, knowing that this is like everyone's watching what's happening in the courtroom here, I mean, how can the judge get away with this?
Well, how can Adam Schiff get away with what he did? You know, or Hillary. I mean, it's a political proceeding, and so the normal checks are not there. In terms of what happens in a court proceeding or a legal proceeding. And there are no consequences, seemingly, in New York for engaging in this type of misconduct. Remember, he's got the support of the media complex up there, the whole political system that appointed him, and certainly he's working in tandem with the Democratic Party boss up there, Boss Bragg, who's the district attorney. So he's already been dinged a little bit by the Judicial Commission, the Ethics Commission up in New York State, for giving illicit contributions to politicians, namely Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't care. You know, the courts aren't working in the way they would in the ordinary course. And what's happened is that it's because Trump's involved. When Trump's involved, there are no rules, and he doesn't have civil rights. There doesn't have to be any evidence for even a jury to be impaneled. I mean, I'm not excited that the jury, everyone's excited, well, the jury's now handling this. The jury shouldn't be handling this. There's nothing to handle. There were no crimes. There's no evidence.
Right.
It's like, they might as well be, figuring out the rules of a board game that some kids made up.
The jury was given an hour's worth of jury instructions. It took 53 pages for the judge to explain them, but then they're not allowed to take any of those instructions in with them. They did send a note back out to the judge, and they asked for those instructions to be read again. They also asked for more information related to the testimony of David Pecker and of Michael Cohen. It looks as though they are going through the deliberative process and specifically trying to focus on that key testimony and how it fits with what the prosecution is trying to claim the crime at hand is. If this hinges on Michael Cohen, though, based on the jury instructions, I mean, he was caught in a couple of lies on the witness stand, let alone the actual lies that caused him to do jail time over perjury. One would think that a jury would conclude that this witness shouldn't be trusted. And then there goes the case, right? Or is it just so politicized, Tom, that just that basic realization won't come through?
Yeah, when you're a jury, you're going to come to a verdict, right? And there are going to be jurors there who think, well, we've been directed to come to a verdict, and we're going to go through all this fake evidence, don't understand that it's fake evidence, and apply it to what we've been told are crimes, even though they aren't crimes. This is an Alice in Wonderland type legal proceeding that has been compromised by a judge who told the jury that they don't even have to agree what the underlying crime is that Trump supposedly had a intent on violating when he accurately, or his people accurately described legal expenses as legal expenses. There's just the reason you have lawyers have difficulty explaining what's going on, or laymen like myself, is because there's nothing normal about this.
Right.
So now the jury's going through this. The jury's being asked to do something that they should have been asked to do. They should have been directed by Judge Merchant to come to an acquittal. They should have had a directed verdict, and there should have been no deliberations. And this case should have never been near a courtroom. Judge Merchant should never have been near this case, and certainly those poor jurors who probably are, they're there in good faith. They weren't voluntarily brought in. They had to show up. They're being asked to put gloss and put lipstick on this pig. It's still a pig, and it's a real ugly, messy one.
We'll let that one stand on its own. I think it's a vivid description. Tom, thanks for everything you do. It's great talking with you. And let's just we've been talking about prayers a lot today, and let's keep praying that this thing gets sorted out appropriately. And
because Trump could go to jail after all of this. Still, for all of this craziness, this man could lose his freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows if the verdict goes south? Is Merchant, the nut job, going to just take him into custody immediately? I don't know. All bets are off.
If he wants that Joe Biden Supreme Court nomination, I think he will. That's literally how politicized this entire escapade is. Thanks, Tom. Judicial Watch, judicialwatch.org. Thank you, Tom. Good talking with you, Tom.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It is 7:15.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Miss anything? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Get today's breaking news on the Vince Colonnese Show, weekdays 3 to 6, right here on WMAL.
It's Larry O'Connor with Mercy Schlapp today on this 30th day of May. And Mercy, one of the top stories in the last year coming out of Loudoun County has involved the county supervisors taking these lavish overseas trips on the taxpayer dimes. They claimed that it was bringing in revenue for the county, but those numbers were all rigged and falsified to justify the trips. They stayed at beautiful 5-star resorts. They took, first-class flights, and we paid for it all. It was all exposed. They gave themselves a pass on it because, they're Democrats. They get to write the rules. But you would think after that expose handled by Nick Minock of WJLA, the investigative reporter there at Channel 7, you would think at the very least that would be the end of it, that any person of authority in Loudoun County government would have learned the lesson and not gone off on junkets when they're supposed to be back here doing the work of the taxpayers. You would have thought that, wouldn't you have?
Larry, we've moved into insanity time in our in our
yes,
states
we have.
here. Okay, are we shocked? No, we're not shocked at all.
Here is Nick Minock's latest. This one involves the Loudoun County Superintendent of Schools, Aaron Spence, who really likes to travel with your tax dollars. Here we go.
After Loudoun County's previous superintendent was fired and indicted, the Loudoun County School Board hired Aaron Spence as superintendent to make a difference for the embattled school district.
And new tonight, 7 News has learned through public records requests that Superintendent Spence has missed a month of the school year traveling. And this is Spence's first academic year on the job.
7 News reporter Nick Minock shows us where Spence has been spending that time. And Nick's asking the superintendent why he's spending so much time out of Loudoun County.
This is Loudoun County Superintendent Aaron Spence. And this is Spence in Miami. What was he doing in Miami in the middle of the school week? He attended the Consortium for School Networking. Here's the marketing video on the conference's website. This video advertising the conference looks like a party for educators, showcasing Miami's water activities, beach scene, nightlife, entertainment, yoga, and more. 7 News found pictures on social media of Spence in Miami. Here's Spence at the Blackbird Ordinary Dancing nightclub.
Okay,
on a Monday,
you get the picture.
I love the music in the background. It's kind of
I knew you
let's
would.
go to Miami.
You're like, hey, I got nothing wrong with this. Let's go to Little Havana. Let's go. This is insane. He gets the job to be the new superintendent of schools in Loudoun County. It's one of the highest paying superintendent jobs in one of the richest, most highest profile counties in America after a mess. You would think that at the very least for the first year of his contract, he would stay at home and say, you know what, I got a lot of work to do. I want to show that I'm going to get the job done. Instead, he's down partying with your sister down in
my sister would not party with the Loudoun County superintendent.
No,
Sorry.
She partied
She's
with me
too
and
cool.
Meredith that one time.
That's right.
I feel like Tito Puente was hitting the drums that night.
Spence, he's gone to 10 conferences. 10 conferences just in the academic school year. 10. It's like he probably looks on the website is like, okay, where am I going next? Let me plan my next vacation.
Why was he even hired if he's incapable of doing his job without networking with other school systems? Maybe it's me, but I think that there was a time when you could actually be the superintendent of schools without having every month to go visit some other city to network with other school officials.
Especially when you're dealing with the crisis that they've dealt with in Loudoun County. The sexual assault cases, the fact that they're dealing with drug overdoses. I mean, there are some serious issues that need to be addressed. He should be in the schools and not partying in Miami Beach. As much as we love partying in Miami, I and Meredith and Schlapp and Melissa.
True. We've been known to do that, but we don't have important jobs like
exactly
superintendent. In fact, you have hit the nail on the head. On October 31st last year, while Mr. Spence was at a conference in Richmond, which is often referred to as the Miami of Virginia.
Is it really?
Never. That same day, news broke that Loudoun County Public Schools, and Mr. Spence in particular, didn't immediately tell parents about a string of student overdoses, including fentanyl, that happened at the school. In fact, according to the sheriff's office, 11 Parkview High School students overdosed. One of LCPS's biggest school safety crises since the 2 sexual assaults of 2021. And there was no notification to parents that there was this overdose crisis going on in the schools, which, as a parent, you would want to have a conversation with your kid and make sure that they're not in any way affected by it or involved in it or talking or hanging with the wrong kids. And the superintendent, while that scandal is happening under his nose and on his watch, he's out partying at a conference that we're paying for.
And kudos to Channel 7, because God only knows, they went out, they asked all these other superintendents in the area, how many conferences have you gone to? It's ranged from 3 to 4. Some of them didn't even attend conferences. And here you have the Loudoun County hanging out in Miami with, Gloria Stefan and the Miami Sound Machine.
I mean, the way you say that, it makes it sound like, I know it's actually not that bad.
He's gone to Puerto Rico and San Diego. How nice is that?
And it's always during have you noticed it's always during the cold weather months?
The winter months.
It's like, yeah, I got to go to this conference. It's in Miami. It happens to be the last week of January. It's just a coincidence.
No, he was paid to be on the panel in San Diego.
Oh, there you go. Wait, did we get that money or did he get that money?
No, well, he was paid to be on a panel in San Diego for a discussion on reclaiming the narrative. It's like, dude.
What does that even mean?
He hasn't fixed anything. What do you mean reclaiming the narrative?
The investigative reporter who's been all over this story, who is basically Loudoun County government officials' worst nightmare, Nick Minock, Channel 7, he's going to join us coming up straight away. It's 7:23.
Making sense of your world.
Appreciate what you do.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
I completely agree with what you're saying.
Making sense of the news. Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:37 now as we charge through this very busy Thursday morning. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for being part of our team. Coming up at 8:05, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael Whatley, and then at 8:35, Miranda Devine, New York Post. Hunter Biden will finally face criminal charges in a court of law. That trial about to begin, so Miranda will give us a preview. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Mercedes Schlapp.
Good morning, Larry. Are you ready for the weekend?
I am. No, I'm not. I got a lot more work to do. This is one of the busiest weeks of my life.
Sorry.
And well busy into the weekend, by the way, since the Free Speech Forum, WMAL Free Speech Forum, will be at the Birchmere Sunday night, so no rest for the weary. But our next guest is very familiar with that. He is probably the busiest journalist in town. He is the investigative reporter and every elected official's worst nightmare in Loudoun County, Nick Minock. Actually, I shouldn't make it just Loudoun because you're all over Fairfax as well. Thanks, Nick, for joining us. Always good to talk with you.
Likewise. Good morning.
You would think that if you hold any kind of government position in Loudoun County after your reporting last year of the taxpayer-funded junkets that the supervisors took overseas, that at the very least you'd sort of, get the message and say, yeah, let's be low-key, let's not take a lot of trips. But here's Aaron Spence, the brand-new superintendent of Loudoun County Schools, in his first year. And how much time did he spend on how many trips outside of Loudoun County?
Right. So he's gone to 10 different conferences just this school academic year. I think Phyllis Randall, the chair of the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors, went on 7 international trips. Now, Spence he's went to Puerto Rico. A lot of his conferences are in the country, at least. But tax dollars are spent on some of these trips. 24 school days this academic year he spent at conferences, a total of 30 days if you include weekends. A Loudoun County parent told me if Spence was a student, he'd be considered chronically absent.
Yeah, 100%. No, when your kids are in the public schools, if you want to take your kid on a vacation during school time, let's say you want to take them to someplace that would be incredibly educational and beneficial for them, they give you a ton of hassles over it because they want that kid in the desk. And here's Spence going wherever he wants. Has he made the case that in some way his job was enhanced or he was personally enriched so that he could better do his job? Is he trying to pull that one?
We know that for at least one of the conferences, he was paid $15,000 for 2 teaching sessions. It looks like he wants to keep that up. And so Chair Melinda Mansfield of the Loudoun County School Board has been approving that, as well as all the other trips. So these trips are not coming to the full board for a transparent vote. Melinda Mansfield is approving this and signing it off. So I asked Mansfield and Spence for interviews to ask a number of questions I think we began asking questions of them more than a month ago, asking to interview them to discuss all this travel, but they have ignored us, haven't replied. I stopped by Mansfield's home just to knock on the door to see if she could make time to speak with us after weeks of asking to chat with her. Same thing with Mr. Spence. But yeah, they're not giving their side to this story, which is unfortunate. I think people really want to know these answers.
Well, yeah, and I mean, there's one thing if you're saying, okay, I'm going out there. I think one of them, the one in San Diego, was about reclaiming the narrative was the panel. The one in Miami has to deal with AI. I'm sorry, but what we're seeing in Loudoun County is real serious issues that students are experiencing, whether it's, rape, sexual assault, drug overdose. I mean, they are dealing with some serious crises. Up to what point can Aaron Spence not respond or stay silent?
Well, we show up to where he is and we try to ask questions, as you see in our report. On this story, he walks away, he's on the phone and goes in his car, slams the door on our face and drives off. And he's avoided questions in the past before. He's walked away from us when we've visited him at a high school in western Loudoun County. But you brought up a really good point. There's a lot of serious issues happening in Loudoun County public schools. He was traveling when students were overdosing late last year. Parkview High School students were overdosing, some on fentanyl. I was looking at the stats this morning, and 1 week there were 8 student overdoses involving students at Parkview High School. That week he went to a conference, went to a conference, came back on November 1st, a student overdoses. He leaves the next day to West Palm Beach for another conference. And by the way, November 1st is the day Governor Glenn Youngkin signed an executive order requiring schools to notify parents within 24 hours of school-connected overdoses. But that did not stop Spence from traveling to West Palm Beach the next day after the governor's executive order. And this is one of the biggest school safety crises Loudoun County Public Schools has had since the 2 school sexual assaults in 2021. So he left when this crisis was happening. And we were all wondering where Spence was for that emergency fentanyl town hall that week. It's possible he was in West Palm Beach.
Yeah, now we know. And just the hubris here, Nick, to first of all ignore a reporter's questions. Although to be fair, Nick, if you came knocking on my door saying you wanted to ask questions, I'd pretend I wasn't home too. Because you're gonna have to start getting a disguise or something and changing your name. Otherwise, it's gonna be harder and harder for you to do your job. Although I do love the video of these politicians avoiding you. But you would think just for the appearance sake, it's your first year on the job. You're replacing a guy who just got indicted, for crying out loud. Maybe just demonstrate to the taxpayers and to the school board that you're committed every day to doing a hard day's work on behalf of the Loudoun County schools. Instead, he's out at 10 different conferences out of town for a total of 30 days, or up to 30 days. That's insanity. And it's frankly insulting to the taxpayer, I think.
Well, we checked in with local superintendents to see how often they travel to conferences. Spence tops the list at 10 conferences so far this school academic year. When I looked down the list, Prince William County, their superintendent, and the DCPS chancellor, they went to 6 conferences. Most of theirs are in-state, in the state where their school system is. So they went to 6. And then you go down the list, Fairfax County Public Schools superintendent went to 3. And so he's an outlier when it comes to traveling to these conferences. And he started his role September 1st of last year. 28 days later, he started to travel, and that was during the overdose crisis at Parkview High School.
Yeah, that trip to Miami, according to Nick's reporting, cost over $2,000 of taxpayer money. And it's just going to add up after the Puerto Rico trips and everything else. You can stay on it, Nick. Stay on these people, and at some point they're going to have to answer to you or to the taxpayers. Dr. Jill Biden, the First Lady, was on The View yesterday, and I didn't think it was possible, but the collective IQ of the panel on that program actually went down from the sub-zero number it was at. Here's Dr. Jill. Listen up.
about his age. That really drives me nuts because I'm the same age as your husband. That's right. Yes. I'm reluctant to tell that, but because I want people to know this is what 81 is. Okay. But I know, I have met him a couple of times. He seems right on top of it. I said to him last time he was here, do you work out? He said yes. Yes. Every day?
Yes, every day.
What do we have to do to tell people that the man is competent, alert, and doing the job? And it's not about his age. The other one is doddering and doesn't remember anything and can't put a sentence together and has like brain farts in the middle of a paragraph. and they go after Joe.
Well, you know, this election is not about age because, like you're saying, I mean, Donald Trump's going to be, what, 78? And Joe's 81. They're basically the same.
It's enough. It's not about Joe. I agree with Joy Behar. It has nothing to do with Joe Biden's age. It has to do with the fact that his brain malfunctions and is full of mashed potatoes. And when it does work, by the way, his policies are evil. Yes. So, I mean, pick your poison.
Exactly. I mean, look, Jill is doing everything she can to help reset the campaign. Poll numbers are looking bad. Biden can't put a sentence together. You send out the wife. I mean, this is where we are. And her they treat her. You know, she was in Good Morning America. She was on The View. She's promoting this book called Willow. It's about the cat. I believe in the book they might have found Hunter Biden's cocaine bag. The Willow found it. That's what I heard. He got high on Hunter's coke.
See, it was just catnip.